Let's now talk about entering data. And I feel like I've done this recording in prior sessions so much that I worry about leaving things out. But I had alluded to the fact that on the right side of, this was in a prior video, on the right side of the entry sheet you have where you could see actual charts for that particular month if you're interested. Otherwise, you've got the numbers here. So let's talk about entering data. I'm going to show you something that you'll understand why I've locked these cells, I think, and you'll see here that the letters go from I to BI, and that's because I've collapsed a number of cells. So let me unprotect this. This is month 1, and just show you what's kind of behind the scenes and will stay there when you're making entries. This little plus sign up here opens up all of those hidden columns. And I'm going to show you also on the project how you can make life easier for you. So anyway, all these hidden columns now are actually the accounts. So I'm going to leave it open just for a minute just to show you something. So let's say I'm in January, all right, January 5th, and then I say January 5th, 26, tab across. You don't have to have a check number. It could be a debit, it could be a credit, it could be, it could be Cash App. You could put anything in here you want. The heading is just a check number, and I'm gonna put one in. But just so you know, it does not have to be a check. And if I get requests about, well, how do I put in a debit or a credit? I know you didn't watch this video, so anyway, if you remember, I said put in your vendors before you make entries. So I'm just going to put a couple in just so I could show you the way this comes up when you're actually making entries. Okay, so let's use the drop down box, and I'm going to say it's Joe Smith. Originally I was thinking he'd be a vendor, but not. Why not? Let's not do that. I'm going to put in, I'm not going to put a project code in, all right? I'm going to say this is member 1, and we could go back and change that. If you remember, in our chart of accounts, we have that list where we could change the member or the project to specifics of what we're talking about. In other words, this member could be changed to Joe Smith. The project could be, like 123 Main Street, something like that. So I'm not going to put a project code in on this one, but we're going to say Joe Smith, put in cash, and he's one of the owners, and it's going to be equity. Okay, there's the $10,000. Let's put another one in. We'll do the 5th again. Joe Smith did not have a check, so we're going to take that out. Now I'm going to show you deposit can go in there. This next one could be check 123. We'll call it ABC Power. We're going to make it project 1. We don't enter members. We're going to put 500 in. We're going to use utilities. And you can see you start the entry and it drops down. So I did it wrong here, right? I put it in cash in. You could tell by the balance. Cash out 500. Just so you know. let's go to our financial statements, and you can see the entries up here. Our cash balance is now $9,500 because what we did is we we entered, our first entry was the equity for $10,000. We had in the loss column 500, and that was our utilities. So all of these come over to your financial statement. Back to month one, let's make another entry. Going to call Joe Smith again, and we're going to say he's now on project 2. He wants to keep track of his equity, so he's still member 1, right? And he's going to make another deposit, let's say $1,000. Owner equity. All right, so now we've got member 1 twice. So let's take a look at that equity split. Here we have, he's done 2 entries on month 1, and you'll notice that each month has the general journal month too, so it's easier to trace. You could actually add comments here and say entry 1 was 10K, entry 2 1K to project 2. So if you have to go back and say, "Dad, I don't remember doing that," well, you put the right amount, you put the right comments in, and of course they don't have to be all capital letters. It could be small letters, and it'll remind you of what you've been doing. So let's go now to our project financials 1. Project 1 is minus $500 because of we coded, if you remember, we coded the utilities, and it has no and this is where we go back to a prior video where I said I didn't want to call this financial statements. So because of you may not code everything in a way that provides you accurate financial statements. For example, here's the balance sheet, and you don't have, assets have to equal liability and equity, and you don't have anything in liability or equity on this one. In the second one, the project, he decided to code the $1,000 of equity in as a project 2 instead of not coding it at all. So going back, well, here's the cash, here's the assets, here's the equity. That happens to balance, and there's no income statement on project 2 right now. So if you see project 2 and we go back to the first month, and this is why I have 2 columns now instead of the old version where I only had 1 column where you could only enter a project or the equity code. You see here we were able to enter both, so that yes, if you do it the right way, you could have actual financial statements for each project. So next I want to and by the way, you never should really have an entry. You never should have as one of your accounts on your cash journal. There's no reason to have cash, right? If you're doing cash out here and you do cash here, no, it's not going to work. So you have a general journal. And why would I have a general journal? I have a cash journal. Well, and here you see I put check/reference. So let's say this is January 15th, 26. I'm going to put a project code in. All right, we'll say project 2. Now let's say I had made an entry where, well, in fact, let's just go back and do it. Let's make an entry where I'm saying I wrote out a check to, I'm going to say ABC Power, which it doesn't make sense, but just to save some time, project 1, and I wrote it out $4,000, and I counted it as small tools. Okay, so there's a bunch of ways you can do this. You could go back and correct it, for one, or maybe you put it in the wrong project number, and you can always go back on the actual entry and correct it. But let's say I know there's something wrong with it, so I feel like I need to correct this. And I'm saying, well, that wasn't really small tools, was it? It was $1,000. We're going to make that a balance sheet account and call it equipment, so that our credit has to be $1,000, and we're taking it out of small tools. All right, and then maybe that was, I don't know what I coded that, if it was project 1. All right, now here's the thing, when you're making entries here, let's say we make an entry for a credit card payment, or we record the liability. So we're going to have a bunch of let's say $100 debit to internet, 800 we're going to say is legal, 250 we're going to say is auto. Say, okay, those are my charges to my credit card. Let's make that entry. Well, what do you need to do is go down here and see that something's missing. It doesn't balance. I've got $21.50 in debits, $1,000 in credits, so I must have a liability or a credit of $11.50, and that is to credit card payable. Let's see. Oh, that works. Okay, so now you're balanced, and there's a number of ways you're going to find out that you made a mistake with this, and you don't have to use any of the project codes or any of the equity codes. If you're a one-man shop and you're not interested in keeping track of your whatever you've got, building or anything else, you don't have to use it. It's there for your convenience. So now you saw down at the bottom it said error when it didn't balance. Here's something else that happens. If you, now you're going to find, if this continued for a couple of months, this would never show up on my bank rec because I didn't put a date in, and that goes the same for these up here. If there's any cash entries up here, it's going to be the same. You got to put the dates in. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get everything done correctly. So back to the cash journal. All right. Let's say I'm charging Unit 1 for something they did. They destroyed some piece of equipment there. Piece of equipment, $100. All right, so let's say we write out a check to ABC Power. Yeah, we shortchanged them some money, $25. and it's utilities again. Oh, what happened? There's a value oh, look up here. We didn't enter any account. So if we end up picking an account, now we're in good shape, okay? So if we go back to, let's take this out again. So you see what happens here is if you don't enter an account name, then it's not going to register in your cash line. And if it doesn't register in your cash line when you put the next item in, you're going to have a value problem. So you know that what it does is it checks. Here we'll check and say if this has an account name, then go ahead and do this calculation. If it doesn't, you leave it blank, and then the next line has a value problem. All right, so let's say you didn't have this entry, okay? So you didn't have this entry. You don't realize that you forgot to put in an account name here. So we've got small amount of entries for month 1. We go to month 2. We make a couple of entries: rental income, the pay a small furniture. We did a cash out. Again, maybe we don't have a lot of entries. Let's do another 1,000 of rental income, 250 for maybe repairs and maintenance. Okay, so big deal. I don't see any problem here. Let's go to our financial statement. We got an error. How could there be an error? I entered everything right. Well, now when you get to month 2, you got a problem with your balance. Your financials just don't balance. So let me go back and say, all right, what happened here? I don't get it. Bing, 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 bing. That general journal looks okay. Bing, bing, bing. Oh, here we go. I could put it anywhere just to show you. All right, go back to financial statements. Now we actually entered an account name. What happened? Now we're in balance. So there's a couple of things that happen here where it'll check itself. See up here that said balance now? If we go back to month 1, let's knock out something there. That will correct you if you have another entry after it. But if it's the last entry, let's take that out. If it's the last entry, you're not going to get a correction in the first month. It'll show up in the next month because it's messing with your balances and your income and loss and equity. Okay, so you have two ways of catching it. If it's not the last one, let's make this one computers and take this out. If it's not your last entry, the value will pop up here and you'll realize you made a mistake. You forgot to put an entry in there. So we'll put the entry back in. We'll go to financial statements. Everybody's happy. We're all in balance. Okay, so we could see now everything balances. We could see how the system shows you there are errors. If you go to the financial statements and you see an error on top, it could be something you did in that month, but it could also be that last entry you made from the prior month because you didn't see a value come up because there was no further entries. So you know that entries that are incorrect will somehow show up in the general journal. If you look at the bottom and your debits and credits don't match, you could catch it right away, right? The totals, it says right on the bottom that it's not balancing. The financial statement on the top will pop up. It'll either be balanced or error. And again, you left out that account name, and that'll go to the next line. You make another entry, and then it'll show that pound value sign. So now I just want to show you the year end, which is really the trial balance. These are the balances that we saw on the financials, okay? And you can see here the debits and credits, they all balance. You can make adjustments in the yellow and maybe miscategorize something. Maybe you want, rather than going to your month 12 general journal, and you want to use a depreciation entry, you can do it right here. You can make it here, for example, and let me do it first. Down here you have an account that is depreciation expense. All right, 500. Now I've got to go back up here and get the accumulated depreciation in line 8. We hit that with 500. We see it balances. Everything here balances. Our accounts are balances are adjusted. You see 800. There was nothing here. Now we're at a $500 debit. Down here, our depreciation expense is $500 increase. Up here, I'm sorry, the accumulated depreciation under the equipment reduces, it's a credit, it reduces the balance of your equipment. Okay, so anyway, that's how you can make adjustments. And like I said, if it's somebody who knows what they're doing, maybe they're doing your taxes, they could come down here and actually add some new accounts. They won't show up in your chart of accounts, but for tax purposes, they may have the pre-entered accounts on the form, and they can make their adjustments right here. Okay. Okay, so I want to collapse this ribbon just to get it out of the way. It'll show the tabs across the bottom, and I got rid of the ribbon. It makes it easier for me to see, I think for you too on the video. So I had mentioned to you that I was going to show you something in the project financials that might make life easier for you. Now I have locked all the other sheets so that, for example, you can see if I tried to enter something outside of the yellow, it wouldn't work. I can't even see it. If you remember, I opened everything up by clicking this, and now I can't. If I give this to you and I don't give you the code to protect or unprotect, you're not going to be able to open it and see all those accounts again, or make a mistake and enter something in a cell that you shouldn't enter it in. So let's take a look at our project financials, and you see here you've got a bunch of projects. Maybe you don't have this many projects. Okay, so what if you don't have the 12 projects that we're showing here? Well, if I have this locked, which means that I went to review, and you have to protect the sheet. Now this one is not protected, but if let me just do something. Now it's protected, and you try to enter something in one of these cells, it's going to come up with that statement. The cell or chart you're trying to change is on a protected sheet. You have to unprotect it. So what I was hoping was that I could let's say you have 4 projects or 4 apartments or 4 customers, whatever it is, and you wanted to get these out of the way. Okay, All right, you highlight them, you do a right click. How are you going to do it? Well, you can't. So you'd have to go into review, unprotect, and then put in the code, and then you could right click and you could hide those columns and then leave your total column still there. We'll slide it back, and now you could have your project 1, 2, 3, and 4 with your total column. It would still add across. So I opened this back up so that I could see the balances. And here's what I want to explain to you. If you remember, I said coding the projects may or may not render you accurate financial statements. So that's why I don't call this a balance sheet. That's why I don't call this an income statement. So it's possible for you to get true financial statements, but it means you've got to basically code everything. For example, let's say you have one checking account that funds all of your projects, and you don't put you don't relate every deposit to a particular project. It's not going to balance. So it's not a true financial statement. That's why you don't see headings that say balance sheet and income statement. Okay, so don't panic if it doesn't balance. It's because your projects, are taking on a life of their own, and not necessarily have to balance in the balance sheet. You may be just totally interested in revenue and expenses to see where you're going with that. I don't know, but what it does do, though, is it gives you an opportunity to see if you bought, let's say, a bunch of computers. Then it gives you an opportunity to at least see that some of your money went into that, which doesn't show up in your income statement. But later on, you can make an entry for depreciation and accumulated depreciation on assets like that. So anyway, all of that, we have every month, we have project financial tab. Okay, when we get down to the end, let me go down here. There is a year-to-date and year-end totals that will give you by project your totals for the year, and then overall total for all combined projects. So it really could come in handy. And again, this is up to 12 projects, and if you don't need them, I may give you this system with all of these project financials protected. If I do that, I will give you the code to unprotect the project financials. I'm not going to give you the code to unprotect your regular monthly cash journals and general journals. Believe me, if you accidentally make a mistake and enter something into the wrong cell that would have been locked and you unlocked it, man, it could create a big problem. So, and there should be no entries made on these project financials. The only reason I would give you a code if I leave them, if I do lock them, is so that if you don't have 12 projects, you can hide those projects that you're not using and just make sure you keep the total columns, and you should be fine. Okay, so if when you get this, you see that all of those options on the top have disappeared, what you need to do is go to the three dots, click the three dots, everything will pop up. Okay, you go to review, and here you have protect or unprotect the sheet. So to protect the sheet, click that, and you have to enter a code. I'm going to use 123. Okay, and then it wants you to do it again so that you're verifying that's the correct code. 123. Okay, so if you get it now, Let's do that again. You should have review. Go to on protect, click on protect. 1, 2, 3. All you got to do it is once. Click OK. Now your cell is unprotected, and you want to, let's say you have 8 projects and you want to hide 9 through 12, the very top where the letters are. Click, drag, leave the total column there, then right click and click hide, and that's it. Now if you want to go back and protect it again, which is a good idea, go to the 3 dots, click the 3 dots, under review, protect the sheet, bingo, enter your code. Use something simple so you don't have to worry about a lot of entries. Okay, so that's it, guys. Hopefully I can come out with another version that's a little more powerful within the next few months. Thank you.